What if I told you one of television's funniest shows almost featured a scene so absurd, so hilariously outlandish, that it was cut before anyone could ever see it? A single pair of bunny slippers, yes, bunny slippers, sparked debate, confusion, and became a whispered legend among fans. This isn't a joke. It's the story of Get Smart, the iconic 1960s spy comedy that made millions laugh and still holds a few secrets up its tailored sleeves. There's an episode of Get Smart that nobody got to see. Shot in 1965, it was never aired. Why? Because someone at the network decided it was too much. And what was this outrageous offense? Maxwell Smart walked into Control headquarters, wearing bunny slippers. Yes, bunny slippers. Not bombs, not scandal. Just fuzzy, floppy, pastel-colored bunny slippers. Max, played with perfect deadpan delivery by Don Adams, walks in with all the seriousness of a man about to save the world. Meanwhile, everyone around him stares, stifling laughter, as his ridiculous footwear bounces with each step. The scene was pure gold. It captured everything that made Get Smart a phenomenon. Absurdity wrapped in seriousness, visual comedy at its best. But the network executives didn't see it that way. They called it too silly. Never mind the fact that this was a show featuring shoe phones, invisible dogs, villains named the Craw, and secret agents hiding in vending machines. Apparently, bunny slippers crossed a sacred line. The scene made it through filming, even editing, and was part of the original cut. But just before the episode aired, it vanished. No explanation. No behind-the-scenes commentary. Nothing. It wasn't until eagle-eyed fans started noticing the slippers in old promotional stills that the mystery began to grow. Some fans swear they saw the scene in early broadcasts or rehearsal tapes. Others recall it as a false memory. Did I really see that? Moment fueling what became one of the weirdest urban legends in TV history. The bunny slippers too wild for prime time. Why did such a harmless gag get the axe? Some argued it made Max look too dumb. Others said it broke the delicate balance the show struck between parody and logic. But here's the irony. Get Smart was never meant to be logical. That was the whole point. Cutting the slippers was like cutting a punchline from a joke, and for many, that tiny decision became a symbol of the weird, often arbitrary restrictions of 1960s television. Decades later, we're still talking about them. And maybe that's the funniest part of all. That's it. The scene had no explanation. Max enters with complete seriousness, oblivious to the absurdity of his fluffy footwear while others struggle not to laugh. Pure visual comedy. Classic Max. But someone in the executive suite deemed it too silly, even for a show that featured exploding phones and invisible dogs. So they yanked it. Let that sink in. A pair of bunny slippers was too ridiculous for a show that revolved around talking shoe phones and villainous organizations named KOS. There was no announcement, no explanation, no commentary on a DVD years later. Just silence. But fans noticed. Hardcore Get Smart enthusiasts began digging. Some claimed they remembered seeing the slippers in early promotional stills, grainy, black and white images that showed Max in all his goofy, fuzzy-footed glory. Others swore they'd caught the scene in a late-night rerun or stumbled across it in rehearsal footage leaked from studio archives. Whether it was real or just wishful memory, it didn't matter. The legend had taken on a life of its own. It became a kind of TV folklore, passed around forums, discussed at conventions, and debated in fan circles for years. The infamous bunny slippers scene became Get Smart's own version of the Missing Beatles track or the Lost Doctor Who episode. It wasn't just about the joke. It was about what it symbolized, how something so perfect and harmless could be censored for being too much. And the bunny slippers weren't the only casualty of cautious network decisions. Take, for instance, the coffee spill incident, a physical comedy bit where Max, in his usual oblivious way, accidentally pours scalding coffee on the chief. The chief, ever the symbol of Control's order and discipline, winces in agony while trying to maintain composure in front of a visiting foreign dignitary. The studio audience reportedly erupted into such uncontrollable laughter that it disrupted the scene. But the executives didn't find it quite so amusing. They felt it made the chief look weak, unfit for his position of authority, and so the scene was cut. Then there was the infamous rubber chicken scene. Yes, really. Max was supposed to throw a squawking rubber chicken, rigged to explode into confetti, as a diversion while Agent 99 infiltrated a KOS office. Killed during rehearsals. Don Adams himself supposedly loved the gag, but the studio brass thought it made the show look too childish, too slapstick. Again, this in a series built on exploding pens, fake walls, and agents disguised as soda machines. These lost gags weren't just jokes left on the cutting room floor. They were reflections of a creative team constantly trying to push boundaries in an era where comedy still had rules. And even when those rules made no sense, they were enforced. There was the infamous hot coffee gag Max spills scalding coffee on the chief during a visit from a foreign dignitary. The chief, trying to hold it together, silently screams while the audience erupts in laughter. But executives, they didn't laugh. They thought it made the chief look weak and undermined control's authority. The scene got cut. Another gem lost was the rubber chicken. Max was supposed to use a chicken rigged to squawk and explode in confetti as a distraction. Don Adams loved it. But again, too slapstick, said the execs. Slapstick? On Get Smart? That's like saying a banana is too yellow. Then there was a more emotional moment Max and 99 trapped in. A broken cone of silence, sharing personal confessions. It was sweet, funny, even a bit romantic. Too romantic, apparently. Gone. Each of these scenes, whether goofy or heartfelt, added depth to the show's absurd world. And yet they were trimmed, deleted, forgotten. Except by fans who still talk about them today. To understand why these losses mattered, you have to understand what Get Smart was. Premiering in 1965, Get Smart was born out of Cold War anxiety and James Bond mania. But instead of giving viewers another cool, deadly spy, creators Mel Brooks and Buck Henry gave them a clueless, deadpan disaster named Maxwell Smart. Don Adams brought Agent 86 to life with razor-sharp timing and a voice that could make you laugh with a single syllable. Smart worked for Control, battling the evil organization KOS with the ever-capable Agent 99, played by the elegant, intelligent Barbara Feldon by his side. Agent 99 wasn't just a sidekick. She was one of the few strong, smart women on TV at the time, saving Max from disaster, solving cases, and doing it all with style. In a decade dominated by male leads, she stood out. The show was packed with gadgets. The famous shoe phone, the cone of silence, exploding cufflinks, even inflatable walls. These weren't just gimmicks, they were parodies of real Cold War tech, exaggerated into absurd brilliance. And then there were the catchphrases. Would you believe? Missed it by that much. They weren't just lines, they were cultural touchstones. The magic of Get Smart wasn't just in the writing, it was in the cast. Don Adams as Max was the heart of the show. He didn't just play the character, he was the character. After Get Smart, he carried Max with him through commercials, appearances, and even lent that same voice to another clumsy icon, Inspector Gadget. Barbara Feldon's Agent 99 brought elegance and strength. While she stepped away from the spotlight in later years, she left behind a legacy that broke barriers. Her book, Living Alone and Loving It, shows a quieter but still sharp mind behind the role. Edward Platt, as the chief, was the calm eye in the comedic storm. With his deep voice, deadpan expressions, and endlessly exasperated demeanor, he provided the perfect counterweight to Maxwell Smart's chaos. He wasn't just a straight man, he was the anchor of Control, trying to maintain order while navigating exploding pens, malfunctioning gadgets, and Max's relentless incompetence. Platt's background in dramatic roles gave the chief a certain gravitas, making the absurdity around him feel even more outrageous by contrast. His presence lent credibility to the silliness, which is no easy task in a world where a phone in a shoe was standard equipment. Off-screen, Edward Platt was known as thoughtful and reserved, very different from the wacky energy of his co-stars. Before Get Smart, he had a successful career in film and television, with appearances in classics like Rebel Without a Cause and North by Northwest. But the chief became his signature role. Sadly, his life was cut short when he passed away in 1974 at the age of 58. Though gone too soon, his performance left an indelible mark, and fans still remember him as the voice of reason in a world gone hilariously mad. Then there was Bernie Koppel, who brought to life one of the most beloved villains in TV comedy history. Siegfried, the KOS agent with a thick accent, a short temper, and a long list of failed plans. He was menacing in theory, but in practice, he was delightfully bumbling and hilariously vain. Koppel's chemistry with Don Adams was electric, and Siegfried's frequent exclamations like "Schmart" became instant fan favorites. After Get Smart, Koppel reinvented himself yet again. He charmed audiences as Dr. Adam Bricker on The Love Boat, a role that couldn't have been more different from Siegfried, but showed off his versatility. He kept a steady presence on television for decades, guest starring on everything from Fantasy Island to Charmed. Even today, Bernie Koppel is fondly remembered by multiple generations of TV fans. His ability to transform a caricatured villain into a scene-stealing delight helped cement Get Smart's status as one of television's most endearing comedies. Dick Gautier's Himi the Robot was pure comedic genius, a literal-minded machine with a surprising heart. And Robert Carvela's, Don Adams' real-life cousin, played the lovable, dim-witted Larrabee, Control's most clueless agent. Together, this ensemble brought a goofy, wonderful world to life. But like many great shows, Get Smart struggled as the years went on. The early seasons were sharp, fresh, and wildly funny. But by the time CBS took over for the final season, the spark started to fade. Plots became predictable. Jokes got recycled. Even die-hard fans noticed. In an attempt to shake things up, the writers married Max in '99 and gave them twins. But instead of reviving the magic, it shifted the show's tone in ways that felt off. Budget cuts didn't help, nor did a changing TV landscape that was shifting toward more serious, socially aware programming. Still, Get Smart never really died. It just evolved. A short-lived 1995 sequel, a 2008 movie with Steve Carell and Anne Hathaway, and countless reruns helped keep the flame alive. And Don Adams, always loyal to Max, appeared in commercials, promos, and even a Kmart ad, shoe phone in hand, of course. Of course, not everything aged well. Even during its original run, Get Smart was criticized for leaning too heavily on formula. Max bumbled, 99 saved the day, cue catchphrase, roll credits. Over time, even great jokes can wear thin. Agent 99, while groundbreaking, was still often sidelined, especially after marriage and motherhood. And the show was overwhelmingly white. Ethnic characters, when they appeared, were often stereotyped or played for laughs. Story arcs rarely developed. Characters stayed static. For some, that made the show feel like a cartoon, funny but hollow. And while emotional moments were rare, they were often cut entirely, like that cone of silence confessional between Max and 99. In trying too hard to stay funny, the show sometimes missed chances to be truly memorable. Outside of Get Smart, Don Adams built an entire career on Max Smart's persona. Before Max, he played Byron Glick, a clueless hotel detective in The Bill Dana Show. The seeds of Max were already there. In the 70s, he starred in The Partners, another short-lived sitcom where he played a bumbling detective, basically Max in a badge. And though it didn't last, fans followed him everywhere. He did commercials, lots of them, reviving Max for banks, electronic stores, even White Castle. In Canada and New Zealand, he used the persona to pitch cars and long-distance phone services. Always with the shoe phone. Always with "Would you believe?" And of course, he was Inspector Gadget, bringing his voice to a new generation. A cyborg detective this time, but still the same lovable klutz underneath. So why are we still talking about bunny slippers? Because Get Smart wasn't just a show. It was a moment in TV history. A strange, clever, goofy moment when America laughed at spies instead of fearing them. The scenes that got cut, they remind us how easily creativity can be squashed. That sometimes the tiniest, silliest jokes can mean the most. The bunny slippers, the rubber chicken, the spilled coffee, the romantic confessions in a broken cone of silence. None of these made it to air, but they live on in whispers, fan theories, and wistful nostalgia. And maybe that's the point, because in the end, Get Smart wasn't about perfect stories or polished arcs. It was about joy, about watching a guy talk into his shoe and somehow still save the day. About a woman who was smarter than everyone else in the room. About villains who were ridiculous, gadgets that were laughable, and a world where silliness was strength. So here's to the bunny slippers, the forgotten scenes, the jokes that never aired. They remind us of how much heart was behind every laugh, and why even now, after all these years, we still can't stop smiling at Get Smart. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the shoe phone for more classic TV deep dives. Because sometimes the funniest stories are the ones that almost got left behind.